Okay, this is notes for 4-2 matrix multiplication. Okay, so here's kind of the thing we have to keep in mind. Today, this first part is applied, which has given us a scenario. We have a company that's building toys or building stuffed animals. And they're building 3 kinds of stuffed animals: pandas, kangaroos, and rabbits. And they're giving us the amount of hours that they have in October to devote to each one of those to be manufactured, and the hours in November that they have to devote to each one of those for manufacturing. So pandas, for the month of October, they have 1,000 man hours that they can devote to the total manufacturing of the stuffed animal. So on and so forth for kangaroos and rabbits for October. So the first question is, how many hours will be required to cut pandas in October? So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit so that we have the data we need for you guys to be able to see better. And so how many hours will be required to cut pandas in October? So we go to cutting of pandas. Cutting of pandas is 0.5 of our overall hours. So our overall hours for October for pandas is 1,000. So I multiply that, 0.5 times 1,000, and I get 500. I'm going to go ahead and change to a black so that you guys can see a little bit better. Okay. And then it says how many hours will be required to cut kangaroos in October. So cutting of kangaroos, they take up 0.8 of the overall kangaroo time, which is 600. Kangaroos for October is 600. So 0.8 times 600. And that gives me 480. Then it asks me, how many hours will be required to cut rabbits in October? So cutting of rabbits is 0.4 of their overall October time. So 0.4 times 800 would give me 32, so 320. And then it says, what's the total number of cutting hours in October? So I add all these guys up, the cutting for each of those animals, or all those stuffed animals, and it comes out to 1,300. Now we go on to the sewing part of it, and sewing we notice is in the second column. Well, but before I do that, notice that the cutting for pandas, kangaroos, and rabbits, they stacked up with my October column. If I took them and tilted them and flipped them over, then my pandas would match up with my pandas, kangaroos with my kangaroos, and rabbits with rabbits, and then I multiplied them together. And then, of course, we added them back up to get our total. Okay, we could do, and we will do in a moment, the same thing for November to get our cutting time for November as well. We could have had a November as well out here. So now the sewing time for pandas, sewing time is 0.8, and it wants October again. So my October for pandas is 1,000 hours allotted. So 0.8 times 1,000 gives me 800. Kangaroos, sewing time for kangaroos is 1 times their overall time, which is 600. And then rabbits is 0.5 times their overall October time. So it'd be 0.5 times 800 gives me 400. That gives me a total of 1,800. That's matrix multiplication. I did the same thing, took it, twisted it, multiplied, took the middle one, twisted and multiplied. Okay, I would do the same thing for finishing. Take them, twist them, multiply them so that it's pandas go with pandas, kangaroos go with kangaroos, and rabbits go with rabbits. You're going to need to know that for the next part. So we're going to use that same multiplication to find out our cutting and sewing for October, November. We already did it, our cutting and sewing for October. We had 1,300 was our cutting time, and our sewing time was 1,800. Now we would do the same thing for finishing time. We take these guys and we multiply them, so it'd be 0.6 for our pandas times 1,000, which would be 600. 0.4 times 600 for our kangaroos, which would be 240, and 0.5 times 800 would be for our rabbits, for our finishing time, that would be 400. So that would come out to a total of 1,240. Now we do the same thing for November. We did all of these guys times the November ones, and added them up and came up with these. 1520, 2092.5, and 1362.5. Okay? Now, in each of these cases, we need to know if we can even multiply them to begin with. So from what we learned yesterday or in the previous assignment, we have to label the kind of matrix that we have. This is a 2 by 1 matrix. So 2 by 1. This one would be a 2 by 2 matrix. We look at the two inner numbers, the two inside. If they are different, then we cannot multiply these two matrices. So no, those are different, so I cannot multiply them. Looking at number 2, it's a 2 by 2 matrix. This one here is a 2 by 3 matrix. I looked at the two inside numbers, and they are both the same. So that one I could actually perform these operations that I performed up here of multiplication. So we're going to find these. Oh, so what would this one come out to? Because it is a yes. And the answer is, I would be taking 2 and multiplying them times 3 different levels. So it'd be these two, just like we did up here. We took this top row, multiplied it, and got those. Took this row, multiplied it, so we took 3, multiplied it by 3. 3 by 3, 3 by 3. So here it goes 2 by 1, 2, 3. So it's a 2 by 3 matrix. All right. So let's take a look at these guys. We're going to find it if possible. So first thing I want to do is label it. So this first one is a 2 by 2. This one is a 2 by 3. I look at the two insides. They are the same. So that means that I can multiply them. So I take the top two, okay, just like we did with the rabbits and the kangaroos and pandas, and I'm going to multiply or match them up with each level. Multiply them to them. So these 2 times these. Okay, so that would be 4 times -1 plus the 2 times -2. Matched them up. Now I'm going to match them up with a 2 in the middle. And that'll give me my middle section. So 4 times 3 plus 2 times 0. Okay, now I'm going to take those two guys and twist them and match them up with these two on the end. It'll give me my third row. 4 times 5 plus 2 times -6. Okay, now I have to take the bottom ones, this -1 and the 3, and I'm going to do the same thing with them. I'm going to turn them and match them up with each one of these rows. So row 1, so that'd be -1, matching it up, times -1, plus 3 times -2. Now I'm going to take these guys, match them up with the middle. So it'll be -1 times 3 plus 3 times 0. Taking them, matching them up with the end. That would be -1 times 5. And then 3 times -6. Okay? Now I have to do the perform math. So it's 4 times -1 plus 2 times -2. That gives me -8. The middle section, 4 times 3 is 12 plus 0, so it's 12. And finally, I got 4 times 5 and 2 times -6, which is -12. So that's 20 minus 12 is 8. Now the bottom row, -1 times -1 is +1. 3 times -2 is -6, so that comes out to a -5. The middle, -3. And then I have -5 plus a -18, which is a -23. Okay. All right, so next up, I look at this one here to see if it's even possible. This is a 2 by 3. This is a 2 by 2. So not possible. They don't match. Okay, moving on. Oops. All right, so I have a 3 by 3 and a 3 by 3. So the two middles do match up on this one. Okay. All right. So now on this guy, I'm going to take the top row, match it up with the first one. So I'm taking them, matching them with the first one. So it'll be 7 times 1 is 7, plus negative 3 times 0 is 0. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. Okay. Now I'm going to take these, the top row, match them up with the middle row. So 7 times 0 is 0. Negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. And 2 times 9 is 18. Then I take this top row, match them up with the final row. So I did them with the first one, got this. Did them with the second one, got this. I'm going to do them with the third one. So 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. Negative 3 times 7 is negative 21. And then 2 times 6 is 12. Now I have to do, so I did the first row with each of these. Now I got to do the middle row with each of these. So 0 times 1, 0. 8 times 0 is 0. And then 1 times negative 7 is negative 7. Now I'm going to match these guys up with the middle row. 0 times 0 is 0. 8 times 8 is 64. 1 times 9 is 9. Now I'm going to take the middle row, match it up with the final row. 0 times negative 5 is 0. 8 times 7 is 56. 1 times 6 is 6. Okay, now I'm going to take this final row, the bottom row, and I've got to match it up with each one of these. So with this row, 8 times 1 is 8. 6 times 0 is 0. Negative 6 times negative 7 is a positive 42. Matching them up now with the middle. 8 times 0 is 0. 6 times 8 is 48. And negative 6 times 9 is negative 54.